Hey, Gina,
Yes.
how often do we pay the
Okay.
landfill?
Would you join me for the pledge allegiance to the flag, please?
It's kind of not regular.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Holland,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Holland, second by Grover. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Then I have a special thing to get to do tonight. Mr. Needard, would you please come forward? Is the mic out there good enough that I can go on out there?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't fall down, we're doing good. We would like to present this to you for 25 years of service, which is about half my age.
Very nice, thank you very much.
And appreciate all the work you've done and look forward to still seeing, you're still going to be living in Independence.
I'll still be living in Independence, yep.
Very good, very good.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We need pictures or whatever.
Justin, I'll email you.
You get yours, Dustin? Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Yeah. You don't believe me? Not a third. No, not even, no, not.
I don't have anybody.
They're questioning that being half my age. Don't get to do a special thing like that very often, so it was nice to do. We have nobody who has signed in for public comment, so we will move forward. And I will need a motion to accept and approve the consent agenda that approves the following: the minutes of the November 28th, 2016 regular meeting, city financials for the month of November, disposal of old downtown lights, Casey's General Store, number 2169 premise update, Lucky 10 Lanes Class C liquor license, commercial, January 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2017. Do I have a motion? Motion by Vaughn, seconded by Lenius. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. Thank you. Next, we need a motion to approve the claims for payment.
So moved. Second.
Who did I hear for the first one?
John?
John? Okay.
Second
And second from Grover.
Or Denny.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next, and we have a petition from the public from Bolton and Mink. You just introduce yourself and go from there.
My name is Matt Ferrier. I'm a Iowa work group leader with Bolton and Mink.
Okay.
That I would come and give an update on the well house project for everybody so we know where we're at. Walk through some newer developments to share with the committee and then give an updated schedule on what we feel is left. So since the last meeting, we've had the revised scope of work. That work is nearly complete right now. We are going through quality assurance, quality control process internally, so we're reviewing it, making sure everything is accurate. Those plans will be sent back to the city early next week to have any comment from city staff as well for review. We would like to be turning those plans into the Iowa DNR before Christmas, as they have about a 30-day period where they need to go through and review it. Given their interest in this project, we think that will happen fairly quickly. We don't suspect that'll take the full 30 days, but we certainly want to allocate that time for them. Pardon me, I've got a cold, so I might lose my voice a little bit during this. One of the things that did come up as we were searching, we constantly look for funding opportunities, grant opportunities for all of our projects. One that did come up in particular for this system is a Delta Dental Foundation has a up to a $25,000 grant for fluoride equipment. So that would be pumps, tanks, lines, et cetera, those kind of things. We have 5 of those pumps with this project that are about $3,000 a piece. The pumps alone, we feel, are at $15,000. We think we can pretty easily get to the $25,000 required to maximize that grant. It is administered through Black Hawk County. We've had some conversations with them on who uses them, how often they get used. Right now, all indications point to this is a really good opportunity for us for this project. It seems like it's a very underutilized source. So we're working with city administration staff here to pursue that grant and apply that towards this project as well. Outside of that, with the updated changes, we're looking at a new project estimate of right around $410,000. That's roughly about $85,000 down from the first scope of work that was prepared, that was brought back to this group. And that's removing the process piping and painting and doing some of that work with your maintenance program and taking care of those over the next 5 years. One thing I do feel like we at Bolton Mink want to share with you guys is that with that reduction of work, we also feel like it's fair for us to reduce our fee to you. So we're bringing our fee down to, we worked up ours, it's roughly about $60,000 from the original $72,000 as part of that process. So we feel that brings us in line closer with the final project that we'll be letting here. And ideally, what we're hoping to do is let that project in early February. By the time we get our comment period back from the DNR, we'll put it on file, hopefully here with council in January, and look for a February letting. So, I think that's what I've got. Questions? I would happily have any conversation as long as I don't lose my voice in the process.
Does anybody have any questions for him?
What was the total project that you said? I forgot.
It's approximately $410,000.
So with that now, do we still have the opportunity on some of the, the things like the roofing and some of those that are, do we have the opportunity, are we gonna pull those out and kind of bid them?
Well,
Do them
yeah.
like each, earlier we talked about just taking a pump house and doing something with time and materials to see how it came out versus the 10,000 and for the roof and everything. Do we still have the opportunity to do that, or?
Well, this is not looking at one pump house, this is 5 pump houses.
I understand that.
But this is not dealing at all with how we bid the project. This is not bid process, this is just project scope. So this identifies those things that have to be done.
Correct.
Now, once we get that permission back from the DNR, the permit,
Yeah.
Then we'll decide how to do it.
then it comes back here and you'll decide how are you going to bid it out, because that's the next.
And we're working on some concepts that we feel like the council may entertain, potentially looking at some potential bid alternate items if we break it down a little bit, have items in there that we could or could not select to do as part of the process. That may give you a feel for that bid process as to where those bids come in, sorry, versus what local contracting prices may come in as well. So you have a little bit of a way to compare that. Sometimes that bulk approach works out in our favors, and honestly, sometimes it doesn't. It really depends on what contractors are available. In regards to how we bid them, historically, we've always found that, it typically ends up being a more economical way to bid it as a large project, where you have somebody that orchestrates it. But we do have the anomaly on occasion where we find out that there is somebody local that does provide a better price or even a better product. So we're working on some options for that. We'll bring that back to this group once we hear back to the DNR. It's probably a longer answer than you wanted.
No, it answers my question. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, the $595,000 that started out with hasn't really got cheaper, it's just that we've taken things out of it, right?
Correct. We've reduced the scope of the project. And as certain items get removed, obviously, more value comes away with certain pieces. You remove pumps, and that processing pipe, the processing system itself is roughly about $85,000 worth of material and labor out of the project, so.
What kind of process is it to apply for Delta Dental? Do you take care of that?
We're gonna help the city. The application will have to come through the city, but we'll help put the application together. It's very simple, and it's a rolling application. Pretty straightforward, and honestly, they were encouraging us to apply for it, so they would like to see us use it.
Was that anticipating taking it down to the 400 and?
That is not in the forte, so it would be a little extra candy on the pot there, so. And we continue to look. We keep trying to find other grants that we can apply to this as they become available. And we constantly work with the DNR, so if there's extra money laying around that we like to try to use, we'll try to apply that as well.
Now, the 410, just so, I think Deb asked a good question. The 410 is the project cost. You still have the
Correct.
engineering fees.
Yes,
and-
the 410 is what we feel like it's gonna cost to construct this.
Right.
That is the actual project budget.
So then the 595 that you referenced was everything? This would be the 410 plus the engineering and the contingency that you had built?
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And as we get closer, once we get comments back from DNR, if they, some of the little bit of guesswork that happens in there at the end, that allows us to take that contingency down each time. So as we get a final product, when we're ready to let it, we'll come back to you with, here's our estimate. It will not have contingency in it. And that's based on finalizing some decisions that may or may not impact us coming with decisions from the DNR.
And those are still construction estimates by the engineer, not?
Correct. Yep, they're based off of, we bid a lot of them, and so we track those. And we usually, as we assemble our estimates, we look at a 3-year average on our items, and that's how we establish our estimates for the work.
Any other
Happy to answer
questions?
any other questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity.
Next under the agenda, under resolutions, is the Civic Center levy transfer. Motion to approve a resolution allowing the city clerk to complete Civic Center levy transfers.
So moved.
Motion by Holland, seconded by Hill.
Yeah, I do have a question. I know this is the special tax levy money. Okay, that we approve every year when we can or cannot
Right.
approve it.
Correct.
Okay.
And it can only be used under certain areas within the civic center.
Why is this different than the way we're doing it now?
We're required to receipt that into the general fund. We have used, most of the civic center projects are in the capital improvement plan. So all it's doing is moving it from the general fund to the CIP. It's just how we keep it internally. It doesn't have any effect on anything else other than how we fund the projects and how we track them.
Any other questions? Then I need a roll call, please.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Holland.
Yes.
Thank you, motion carried. Next on our agenda is the council committee structure. So
Can
we want to
we
discuss
question
this
them?
before we do a motion?
Question, if there's no motion made, this just dies, right?
Correct.
I still need to ask for
What
the
are we
motion.
voting on then?
That's-
This
We
is-
don't, we just let it die.
Everybody seemed to I think everybody indicated at the workshop they would prefer to see the council committee stay the same as they are and maybe some tweaking of reporting and working with the full council.
Okay.
So this kind of became unnecessary.
One thing I did do with help is, I pointed out a couple of issues that we encapsulated in the resolution. If you want to treat the committee of the whole, if you will, or the work sessions as a regular paid meeting, that is something that is in there. I'm going to go through and make sure I haven't missed anything. I did change the language to reflect your desire to continue with the committee meetings, but the committee of the whole is to consolidate the discussions and activities of the committees into a committee of the whole, so that really creates the agenda for the committee of the whole. We can add other items to that work session or committee of the whole meeting, but this ensures that we bring all of the committees together lump sum. So while this does say trial committee, we left it as a trial for your review, but that does engage the $50 per meeting and the fact that each of the committee agendas come forward in this. We don't have to have a resolution to do that. We can do that on our own, but those are the two things that I wanted to bring to your attention on the resolution. If you wanted to do it under a trial basis, or just leave it as is and do nothing with it.
A question, on the $50 a meeting, is that similar to voting a raise for ourselves and you need to wait for the next election?
You are not giving yourself a raise, you are adding meetings to the current income that you have per meeting, if you will. So it is not, in essence, giving yourself a raise where you wait to the next election.
No matter how you look at it.
Well, I understand that perspective, but we did look into this, and you're not changing the $50 a meeting. It's just that you have more meetings.
And does it need a resolution to do that? If that's the only thing on here that is questionable, do they need that to be in a resolution? Or can that payment be made since it's a regular meeting rather than a work session?
So what would be the difference between the two options?
At this point, the council are not paid for the work session or committee of the whole meeting as a meeting. I mean, that's not covered in their current resolution.
Sure.
So this would add this as another required meeting, if you will, of the council,
You're only talking about the work session, right?
the work session.
So then Mayor's.
It's kind of we treat it as a required meeting anyway.
Well, we'd have to
More or
change,
less.
we have to change the council, identify it as what you're being, where where it falls under compensation, under whatever chapter, what is that we have, 14 or whatever it is.
Well, the compensation amount per meeting doesn't change.
No, I know, but we'd have to place the words
Right.
workshop,
Correct.
which don't currently exist.
Correct.
Well, when the mayor calls an emergency meeting where we have to vote on a separate meeting, that's always been covered with the $50.
Right.
Yeah, but that's also covered in the ordinance.
Right.
So Mayor, specifically, what's your question? Because the proposal, as I understand it, is to allow for this temporary committee of the whole. Is that right?
For 6 months.
Correct.
And it was gonna be on a trial basis to see if you guys liked that, or if you wanted to continue that way. So Mayor, specifically, what are your,
So does
You
it
asked.
need to be in a resolution to do that, or the fact that we all have been in agreement that we will be doing that instead of a work session? Does it need to be formalized in a resolution?
you'd certainly be safer by having it in a resolution. I think there's leeway in the ordinances to decide what you want to do with committees, but in terms of the compensation part of it, a resolution safeguards you in that respect. Does that somewhat answer what you're going
Yep.
for?
But what we agreed to do is continue with the committee meetings as they are and then have this as the committee of the whole. This really is where you kind of add a layer, but it's really where we get a good discussion of all the committee reports and everything without having it be the only thing.
And it can, there can be no decisions made during this time, and we can,
That's right.
and we can request to have people come and talk to us depending on things that's been done on the regular committees, but it still has no involvement from the community as far as questions or comments from the community.
Yeah,
from
it
citizens.
doesn't violate
Right.
open meetings law,
Right.
there's no actions
Right.
being taken. We see them in other cities, and they work well, specifically with bigger projects where one committee being assigned to it, but you're still gonna have a lot of the legwork with an entire council take place. Again, not making decisions, but that's where I've seen them work well, so.
Well, and I think that's where we fall down and have the problem is on the bigger, the bigger projects, typically streets and some of those. We just get stuck on those, so that's where I see the value of it. Okay.
I think it gives our workshop committee of the whole a little more structure. We've been doing it all this past year, and it's kind of been hit and miss on, I think now we know when we come on that first Monday of the month that each committee is going to kind of talk about what they did at their meeting that month and where they're at, if there is a special project, and get feedback from the other council. Is that the direction we'd like to see it going, or why do you think it needs to go that way?
Because it'll be an agenda item on that meeting at that point.
And just because this is such a good idea, the first month out of the chute in January, we have a slight challenge with the timing of it, because Monday is a recognized holiday, being January 1st on Sunday. This is January 2nd. We do have a CIP workshop on Wednesday, so as you look at this, one of the things I'd like you to consider is January's Committee of the Whole would actually meet on Wednesday night with the CIP workshop, or we can do our CIP workshop on Tuesday night and keep it on Tuesday the 3rd, in essence, our first day back. But that's just a scheduling issue for you to contemplate as we look at it.
Wednesday sounds fine.
I don't, makes no difference to me.
So do I need still ask for motion, or,
I'll make the motion, so
Okay.
we move on.
I'll second it.
I have motion from Hill, seconded by Lennius, first for the approving the resolution setting a trial committee of the whole. Roll call, please.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
No.
Grover,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Holland,
No,
Lenius.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Next on my agenda is motion to approve a resolution adopting a city electronic meetings policy. Open that up for discussion first.
This is a policy that the city attorney's office helped us craft. You'll see a policy and a resolution to put it into effect. It does talk about regularly scheduled meetings with electronic participation. A couple of caveats to this. Item number 3, it asks for 48 hours notice. Item 4 does give a provision for the maximum number of council meetings and/or work sessions allowed by electronic means if you had a desire to limit it to a certain number annually. There is a discussion in here about the individual or individuals missing the meeting, initiating the calls. I will tell you that from a practical standpoint, it's a lot easier if we initiate the calls locally. Although if there's a cost, number 8 discusses it should be at the council member's expense. With cell phones, there's generally not an expense associated with that. But with our conference calling technology that we have today, it's probably more practical to initiate that locally and call out, especially if there's more than one person that we're missing at a time.
And I guess this opened me to two different questions. One is, it says meetings of regular scheduled meetings. Well, your committee meetings are regular scheduled meetings, so does that include those also for electronic? And what do we do if we have, because I think we can only do maybe 3 on the phone at the time, so, yes.
Yeah, but your committee meetings are non-voting meetings.
You're right.
There's, if you're.
Well, but so is your workshop or your meeting of the whole.
Well, again, yeah, and I don't disagree with that, but the fact is that, I mean, if one of us was sick on one of the committees, you were at home, but you could still talk on the phone, you can call into the meeting and participate, but you're not, because you're just giving your thoughts and feelings and et cetera on matters that you're not gonna have to worry about, whether it's part of the policy. It's only, in my opinion, or my understanding this, it's only when it affects vote, when you're involved in the voting process.
I think it only
So-
complicates the whole process if we try to add other meetings and
Yeah.
stuff to it. I think we stick to thinking about the council meetings, the voting meetings,
And
and
just,
the rest of it don't worry about.
and not the one in the first Monday of the month?
No.
What if they want to
I don't-
call in?
Huh?
What if they want to call in for information?
I don't care. I think it's fine if they call in, but I don't think we ought to say that it counts or has anything to do with, the whole process.
So maybe it should be regularly scheduled council meetings?
Well,
I think so.
the resolution that's in here would have to be modified because currently it discusses council meetings and/or work sessions. So work sessions are considered in this resolution, so if you want to change that.
And given the fact that there are those instances where we have a significant topic to discuss during that work session, there's no reason why we still couldn't have it as part of this. But it doesn't, weight-wise, it doesn't hold as much weight as the actual voting session.
Then before you vote on it, you do need to put in a number for number 4, maximum amount of council meetings and/or work sessions that a council member can attend by electronic means is limited to blank per year. So you'll need to fill that in before we get a motion and second or vote on it.
I would agree with what everyone else said. If we do a number for number 4, it's, I think, only for meetings where there's a vote being taken, an emergency meeting, a regular meeting, if we did that. I don't think counting committee meetings or workshop meetings or anything like that should be included.
Yeah, the workshop shouldn't be classified as your.
No,
But that's still.
How many times
optional,
met
right?
law.
that's
Laws.
optional.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, my personal feeling is this opens Pandora's box. Because at some point, we may, we may very well have Gina, the mayor, and the city manager sitting here, and everybody calls in. And I guess, Denny, you're here, you don't have to call in.
I was the first one to capitalize.
But I guess that's my, I'm old school, and I know I'm in the minority on this because technology has moved on, but to me, if a person runs for something, I think that's just part of being at the meetings. Now, being gone for a vacation for 2 weeks, I don't even feel that a person needs to call in for that. And I asked for this policy way back when, probably last fall sometime. In May, because we had never called in. That was traditionally the way we did things. We had a couple of issues where the vote could be, go either way, and we then started calling in, something that we hadn't done for 7, 8 years prior to that. So that if we have nothing going on that's of any consequence, people don't want to call in or don't call in. I guess I think if you are going to be gone for an extended period of time, it's difficult to know what the community may be or is not. With all that said, that's all I wanted to say. I just think
That's not true with Facebook and all the communication you have this day. You can find out anything you want, whether you're sitting here or Timbuktu.
no, I agree. I'm in a minority. That's just,
Wasn't there a lady that was on the city council
Beth Mathis,
and she communicated through telephone for how long?
I don't know,
Quite a while.
lengthy time.
She had an illness or something.
Yeah.
On our council?
Right.
Beth Mathis.
Exactly. So right there set precedent, Mike set precedent, Don Brown set precedent, and all of a sudden now, it's a big deal. I don't understand it. I just plain refuse to understand it.
Well, but what Bob's talking about
I know
is
what Bob's
not
talking
one time. He about one or two, he's talking about several times.
It's not like she's gonna be gone for 6 months. You already have used it twice this last year. That's half as many times as she's gonna use it.
I don't think this is singling anybody in particular
I know,
out
but
that's
that's
going
what
to
it's
use it.
about.
Well,
Let's
no,
face- let's
no,
put
it's
the
not.
cards right on the
Because
table here.
this came up when I was on council.
Let's put the
When-
cards on the table.
No,
It's all about
no,
Deb.
now, wait a minute. You need to listen to other people's opinions also.
I understand.
You have yours and you're set on it, but this came up, I know, when I was on city council because there was somebody who was ill and they wanted to have them be able to call in. And the council at that time, that particular council said, no, we would not do it electronically.
That was Steve
And-
Deers. So-
No, it was. It had nothing to do with the city manager. It was the council members that were on the council.
Steve Deers advised us it was against the law,
Well,
which
no.
it was not.
I don't know if you were even on the council yet when
You
this came
talking
up.
about Dick?
Yes, that was
Yeah.
one of them.
That's right. And it was not against the law. We was misadvised. Believe it or
But
not.
it's
I know
still,
hard
but
to
it's
believe.
still, the majority of the council at that time, like what Bob has said, were not comfortable and felt that it was opening a can of worms. And if there's still people that feel that way, they have the right to have that feeling, and for you to make this a personal thing when it's not is not right. So we need to leave that alone. Each of you need to vote your own opinion
I'm
on
giving
whether
you
you
my
like.
opinion of why
and
you're
whether-
doing this.
And whether anybody likes electronic or not. John, did you have
The
something?
difference, what we're doing right now is obviously with Mathis from back in the 20th century or whatever it was.
Yeah.
There was no policy written. We're establishing the policy now, something that should have been done 5 years ago perhaps, which was not done then. Or even if it was a policy saying it's not authorized. Now we're setting the policy.
Right.
John, we've had
obviously-
telephones for a long time.
Okay, Denny, stick to the message here
I had
as to
Craig
what
on
the,
one of them.
stick to the message of what this is about so that everybody knows what they're voting on.
Right now, with how the policy reads, it's if a quorum's not able to be met, correct? Since we're currently riding off of Iowa's state policy.
Well, the Iowa State Code states, if there is a, well, let me go back to it. The current Iowa code says if you do not have any other means to
Get a quorum.
get a quorum, if it's impractical to participate by any other means. And really what it's talking about, to be fair, is it's really referencing the possibility of having all council members participate electronically. Because it talks about the meeting has to be originated at City Hall. It has to be, still conducted here. But it does make the provision for, that's the only way that the council can get together for a purpose. And not to try and get ahead of where you're going with it, but that was one of the concerns that that jumped out at as we looked at it from the city code, or city policy and the state code is, are we talking about an individual or the whole council? And this does open you up for the whole council, and I think Bob referenced it. It does not limit it to being one person being gone. I mean, that is one of the issues that we face.
One comment I would like to make is if we pass this, I think we should strike number 4, because that becomes an obsolete. I don't think there should probably at that point be a limit if somebody wants to be calling in for meetings. Because then the next person may want to be gone for 6 months. And then, so at what point then do we draw the line? So I'm just saying, if this passes, I'd recommend that we eliminate number 4 on limiting the number. I think you referred to, when you were in Kansas, you had a board supervisor fellow that flew back every 2 weeks from Florida.
Actually, it was in Minnesota, but he did for the county board meeting, he flew back every 2 weeks from Florida to
He had a little more money than
If I could
us.
afford to do that, I'd do it. Maybe Leon will fly me back.
Yeah, yeah.
He was not without means, there's no question about
No,
that. But
I'm just doing that jokingly.
I know.
None of us have the means to do that.
It's possible. When I got my petition signed to run, people knew that I go to Texas. So the people that put me in this seat know that I do that.
And everybody in this room.
But this is not just you. This is anybody who wants to
Right, but
be
it's about me
gone.
tonight.
And, well,
That's why I got started.
Only because you're the one that's going to
Okay.
take time at this
Let's-
okay.
point.
Bonnie, don't
let's-
sit there and
let's
shake your
keep
head
it-
that it's
Let's
not.
keep it out of
I
being a
know,
personal
but
thing.
But
This is a
don't-
council meeting, not a
but
mayor
it-
meeting.
It is because of Deb. It's because not that we're picking on her, but it
No.
is. She's the one that's brought it up, so
Well,
we
she
don't need to
questioned
shake
it
our head.
because of the fact that she's going to be gone. yes.
It is because of Deb tonight that we have this conversation. So we might just as well accept that fact. And it's not, we're not being mean to Deb or anything else. It's, Deb's the one that brought it up. So, I mean, shouldn't sit there and shake our heads
Well,
and say this
but
isn't all about
but it
Deb, because
affects
it is.
everybody, not just her. In fact, that's what my point
In the
is.
future, it
If-
might.
right.
In the future, it might. But the reason we're talking about this is because of Deb, period. So,
Which kind of brought forward what we were talking to decide months ago, which would have made a difference whether Deb would have run or not. Had we had a policy, which,
Oh,
We
boy, that'd
drug
been a
our
way to
feet.
keep me out of here, wouldn't it?
They tried,
Screwed up.
they tried, there's no doubt
I
about
know.
that.
well, should we vote?
You need to stop. Well, there's no motion on the floor yet.
well, do we need to amend
What
to
do
take
we-
number 4 out?
If you
If-
take that
if you
4 out,
make a
then what does
motion.
that mean? If it passes, then what it means?
You just
Call
kinda
in as
be
many
gone.
times as you
Anytime.
want to.
There's no
Defeated.
limit. No.
Okay. I just want to make sure we know what we're voting
But
on.
I think anybody that's responsible is not gonna take advantage of that.
I think that's right. I think you're exactly right.
If someone makes a motion, they need to make the motion eliminating number 4 on how it's on your Dropbox right now, or on your policy.
Well, that does make sense. but if
Okay,
you
I'll
broke
make
your
a
hip or
motion, I'll make a motion with the provision that we eliminate line number 4,
Okay?
okay?
Have a motion?
I'll
With-
second it.
Okay, motion and a second. We need a roll call, please.
Hill,
No.
Hannah,
Yes.
Grover,
No.
Brown,
No,
Holland,
No,
Lenius,
Yes,
Vaughn.
Yes,
What do you have?
I have,
You have 4 noes?
I feel like I'm missing one, but yes, 4 no's.
Okay, so it did not,
Move it, voted on, you got to do it, vote no.
so it did not
Something wrong with
pass.
that picture.
yeah, there is something wrong with that.
Must be because I'm a female.
No,
Oh,
I
come
don't.
on, come on, come on, come on,
boy.
come
He
on,
was
let's,
just told to do
okay, the subject's over, you had a vote, it did not pass. If you want to bring it up again at another time, that'd be up to you.
But
We're
this
moving
doesn't-
on to
This
new
doesn't mean
business.
she can't call in. We just didn't pass this particular motion.
We did not set a resolution to that degree, or a
I
policy to
mean, we
that degree.
really, we don't have any policies. You should
Yeah,
call.
there is no policy.
I will caution you, the city attorney did say that, yes, you can do this by state law, but you do have to have a policy. And that was, I mean, this policy and the resolution adopting the policy is what you voted on. So, I'd refer back to, Carter or Dave, as to where does that put us, or how do we approach that?
Seems like you should have said that before we voted.
Yeah,
So she can,
Yeah.
so
Well-
now what we're saying is she can vote in, she can vote, or she can call in.
No, I think I said just the opposite.
Well, I don't know.
He said
Would-
different than I did.
would you-
To me, I think we don't have a policy.
Yeah, I don't
so
think
she
we have a
can call in
policy
if she
either, so
wants.
she can call in.
But
Well, I'll defer to the city attorney's office for that. But what,
He's right there.
the reason,
But I mean, aren't we just exactly like we never brought this up? Aren't we like we were a month ago?
And some of this comes from, it's the safer route, having a policy, especially when anything concerning open meetings, open records, sunshine laws, things like that. You're safer if you have a policy in place, because it means the city's addressed it. Now, a lot of that comes from, is a hardline rule that says, no, you can't do it. That's not my reading of it. But the cautionary approach is to have a policy in place, because you are opening yourselves up to, I don't want to say audits, but you can increase the likelihood of open records requests or people challenging city action, because how do you know for sure that someone that voted on something, when they only have a telephone in front of them, carefully considered what the agenda was, carefully, and you don't have that guarantee with any council member, even when they are here in person. But
that's for sure.
that's the reasoning behind it. So
So even if we have
So we do
policy,
not have a
don't call
policy.
the person.
is it impossible? I don't think there's anything in the Iowa code that says no, but the practice of cities has been to put a policy in place, and it's for those reasons, that you thought it through and you had something in place. So if anyone does come along to challenge an action taken by someone electronically, telephone, Skype, or otherwise, you can say, hey, we followed the policy, we're in line with the rest of Iowa on it.
So can she vote or can't she?
I think she can.
Yeah, because we don't have a policy, right?
Yeah.
We're like we were, so,
Yeah.
there you go.
And that's,
Well, but now you're saying that we do need to have the policy.
that's the smarter approach, yeah.
So if we take this policy and break it down to nothing more than the operational criteria to set up an electronic participation, such as we need to know 48 hours in advance. What about those basic rules that were in there? Not the number of times or what have you, but just simple 2, 3, or 4, 5 step scenario that says policy for telecommunications, or whatever you want to call it. Not any other provisions other than that, just the simple basic operational stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that gets into, I know this is the easy way for our office to punt on things, but that gets into the political nature of how in-depth you want it to be. But a good resource for this is Iowa Public Information Board and the Attorney General's office. Both of them have things online, and what they're looking at is have you checked off the boxes that you've brought up, so.
Well, now, having known this after we voted, someone who votes no can call it back to the table?
Well, the thing is, whether you want to make this as a resolution or just a policy, because Al has got both of those on as attachments to your agenda, is the electronic resolution and just the policy itself. Whether there's a difference, I mean, they're the same thing, they say the same thing.
they say the same thing because the Carter suggested that the policy be approved by resolution. That's
Okay.
why they mirror each other.
That the policy be approved by, okay. can't approve a policy without a resolution?
Yes,
Oh.
but again, Carter had suggested the resolution, I think, going back to David's terms, is the resolution is a safer way to do it, but a motion would do it as well.
Yeah, that's true.
A motion to accept the policy does the same thing as a resolution approving the
There's no
policy.
requirement that you have a resolution. The background on that is our office, and I think most city attorneys' offices don't look at it as what can a city do, it's what should a city do. And a lot of times that's taking the safest option. So,
Is by resolution.
yes, correct.
Do we want to move on to the next item, or what?
I'd like to bring it back to another vote, bring it back to the table.
And somebody else that voted no would have to approve that or agree with that? Do I need two people to bring it back up? Two no votes?
If one of us brings it up, anybody can second it, can't they?
Yeah.
I think you
Second.
Still an
Anybody
actionable
can
item.
second it? Okay. Motion by Hill to bring this back up for a second vote. seconded
Striking
by
number 4
Vaughn.
in it.
Right.
I guess I assumed without this, we just went by past practice.
And again, city attorney would say, no, you should have a policy.
Correct. You could go by past practice, I just think that's a shaky practice to follow. That's our opinion.
So are we done with discussion? We can go to a roll call again?
Now, what are we voting on this time?
Yeah.
We're
Beats me.
re-voting on the resolution approving the policy of allowing electronic call-ins.
Allowing it to happen?
Yes, minus the number 4 of limiting how many.
I
Everybody,
feel like this is a trick.
everybody understand what you're voting on? We're going through
No.
this
You-
again.
Yeah,
Not
If you want-
exactly.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Grab your
If you
wallet.
want
Just the
to-
same thing, just like
If you want to
Groundhog Day,
allow-
we're moving backwards?
If you want to allow
The policy.
electronic participation in meetings, you should have a policy. The policy that's in front of you allows for electronic meetings. So if you vote yes on this, you're allowing electronic participation in meetings.
And if they don't want to have electronic meetings, then we need a policy that specifies that we don't have it?
Yeah, that would be the way to address it. So the Iowa law doesn't state whether you can, whether you can't. Safest route is for the city to make its own law on the issue when the state code is quiet. So that's where I'd start. So if your policy wanted to say you're not allowed to participate electronically, then a council member could show up to a meeting or not show up to a meeting. But you would want a policy in place to resolve basically an issue in the state law that's unresolved, left up to the cities. If you want a policy in place saying it can happen, you can put that policy in place. If you don't, or if you don't want to allow anyone to participate electronically, you could put that policy in place. Safest route is to have a policy on
policy,
it,
one way or
saying
another.
something, just to run, so you're not running into the ambiguity of the state code. That'd be the thought behind it.
And the reason I'm bringing this back up is, again, I thought we went back to past practice without a resolution. If somebody's on the council thinking this is what they could do, I don't think at this point we should prevent somebody from participating because of this. That's why I'm changing gear here, because somebody entered thinking that something could be done, and now we're saying once they're here, they can't do it, and I don't think that's right either.
And to a point off that, the reason a policy is important would be the following scenario. If it's a contentious vote, let's say, wins by 1 and the winning vote is electronically submitted, and someone else wanted to challenge that, then the way to challenge it would be having a judge decide. And then independents could be making new law where there is something quiet in the state code or an ambiguity in the state code, and then you could settle it the difficult way with a judge saying, okay, did that vote pass, did that not? That's what the purpose of a policy is meant to protect you from, and that's why it's the safe approach.
So is this an uncommon thing in Iowa or nationwide that people are wanting to use electronic means to participate?
Well, I don't have the statistics to back it up, but from what I've seen with other cities, normally policies are put in place for health scares, travel, or people can't show up. But I don't think it's very common to have it televised and, we got 6 people on a conference call and 1 person present. So I don't think that's the norm.
I know that that's possible, but I don't think it's very realistic.
I don't believe it would be either. And, the background of that is if that's the way it's changing right now, it's a political decision.
Yeah.
So you guys can pass law on, or the Iowa legislature can pass law on it as to what city councils are allowed to do when they're not in the room.
Okay.
But let's have a vote.
So everybody knows they're voting on the same resolution again, is what we're doing, with minus number 4 of limiting the number of times. Everybody on the same page? Roll call again.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Grover,
No.
Brown,
Yes.
Holland,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. Moving on to new business. Motion to approve the Chicago Central Pacific Railroad Company multi-use pathways sidewalk license. You have an update on this than what we have on our
Hey,
thing?
I do have an update. I did visit with the railroad maintenance superintendent late this afternoon. He is waiving the $1,000 license fee. He said Independence has been good to work with in the past, and he appreciates his working relationship. And so the $1,000 is reduced to $10. There has to be a financial transaction to issue the license. This entails giving us permission to build the sidewalk up to the railroad track, in essence, up to the outside edge of the tie on both the north and the south side of the railroad. There is a proposal by Chig-Fry for building the sidewalk from this rubber mat that the railroad puts in place to the city's right-of-way, both on the north and south side. But in order to proceed with this, we have to approve this license agreement with the railroad, and I guess that's the next step in the process. But it does come with a $10 license fee.
And if we approve that,
$10.
$10.
instead of 1,000. And if we do, and if you do pass this, if you'll make note here that this would be an additional $10 on your claims listing that you approved earlier in the session.
So the railroad has not put down the mat yet, have they?
No, they have not. They will put the mat down as soon as we get the license fee put together. They can put that down, as Harlan said, quicker than we can put concrete down because of the weather. They'll just wait for it to clear up. But the mat actually sits on top of the tracks so that it actually attaches to the railroad ties. We won't, we had talked about trying to get the sidewalk in December. Clearly, we're not going to get that done this December. But he wants to get it done as quickly as possible.
And we've already approved doing that sidewalk, has already been approved, payment for that, and
No, that's part of my comments to you is to add it to the 2016 street project. It is an addendum of $17,285 to add that portion of the sidewalk. Most of that cost comes in with having to have railroad flagmen and the permits and what have you, the insurance that they require. So about a little over a third of the cost of that is strictly related to railroad requirements for working in the railroad right-of-way.
Would this going north hook into the current sidewalk then that goes to Civic Center? Would this take us that far?
No.
No.
No, this would
No,
simply
'cause there is
move
no
us to
sidewalk.
11th Street. You still have from 11th Street to 12th Street where there is not a sidewalk. This does not cover that
Those
block.
costs are just sidewalk on either side of this.
At some point in time, we would have to do this anyway, when we would finally get around to doing the sidewalk project from Bagby's property across to 12th Street. Something would still have to be done at this point to get the railroad crossing pad in, and then the authority to connect to it, et cetera. We'd still have to be doing that. We're just gonna be taking that much more, that much more of the money out of that particular sidewalk project down the road.
This is, I mean, the railroad right-of-way is 100 feet, so it's 100 feet minus whatever the width of the ties are. And then there's about a 6-foot stretch that the city has on the north side where it ties into 11th Street.
Do they pay for the installation of that mat?
The railroad covers the cost of the mat installation.
They do the installation, okay.
That's it. Nobody will work on the rail except the railroad, so they'll put the mat in, but everything up to that is ours.
So you're saying about $5,000 out of this is for paying the railroad for people?
Well, I think 5,500 was for railroad flagmen and personnel to watch, to make sure we don't get too close to the rail.
Well, I understand that. We've had to do that.
I make a motion.
Motion by Holland, seconded by
I'll second it.
Hill, to approve the $10 fee for the pathway sidewalk license.
If I may correct you, what I would ask you to do is make a motion to approve the license application, which includes the $10 fee.
That's how you want it worded?
Yes, please.
You have that?
So we're not approving
fine.
the dollar amount for pouring the concrete at this point.
I'm not asking you to approve that at this point because that's the estimate that we've received. But in order to start this, we have to have the license to consider.
How long is this license good for? Because if it's going to be next summer or even a year from now before we do that sidewalk, is this license still going to be valid? And this just gets them to do their part of it on the track?
Well, the license gives us permission to have access to cross the railroad at that point. So it's more than just a license to do the work. We have to have the permission to do the work and enter that property, railroad right-of-way, and we also agree to maintain that sidewalk, which we do regardless. But it puts a burden on the city to maintain that crossing. Up to, but not including the rail.
With past dealings with the railroad, they're being fairly generous for once.
Yes.
And there's not a time limitation on this
No,
anywhere that,
this is a
does it?
perpetual license.
okay, all right. Are we ready for roll call? Go ahead.
Hannah,
This is just a $10 license fee we're voting on,
The license, and to get the license, we have a $10 fee.
but it's nothing to do with the dollar figure like Bob just said, right? Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Holland,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Lon,
Yes,
Hill,
Yes.
Thank you, motion is carried. Next on the agenda is the Strategic Planning and Goal Setting Report for 2017, for us to officially accept it or approve it from our day that we had with Mr. Callahan.
This is the report that we had sent out to you previously. The last page of the report is simply a summary of your top priorities and your secondary priorities from that retreat.
And these are just guidelines that we've decided, or we as a council feel this is the direction we'd like to go. We're not saying anything in here that we have to do something.
No, these are the priorities that you are asking staff to spend our time and energy on. Your budget will be earmarked to help toward that, but each project will have to be approved as it proceeds through the, let me say, through the ranks. But all it's doing is saying, these are the priorities that you want us to work on in 2017, and quite honestly, beyond.
So it's exhibit number C.
B.
Well,
Strategic planning session, that's where we voted. Where we took the votes.
The very last page is the summary page.
Page 22.
if you go to the very end of the document, that's the summary that I put together of how you rank the priorities and capital projects. For example, you asked for priority number 1, street prioritization and bridge replacement funding plan. Well, we're not going to do street replacements or do the prioritization. That would come back to you as we're going to identify how we're going to prioritize those streets and bridges and move ahead with that to answer
Okay.
Bob's question.
Is there any other discussion? We need a roll call?
I don't know.
You need a motion.
Well, we don't have a motion yet.
Make a motion.
Might be helpful with that, huh? Motion from
second it.
Holland, second Grover. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Grover,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Holland,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Swan,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is carried. Next, C under new business is the Service Line Warranty Program, National League of Cities. Is something we discussed at our workshop.
I want to be real careful because the only document that I have for you is the original service line marketing agreement. They are sending us a new revised agreement that has the 50-cent license fee, they call it, removed. The plan that you have in front of you attached to the agenda is the old one. It still has the 50 cents in there.
Are we still have to authorize them to use our city letterhead.
They are still asking to use the city logo letterhead.
We're just gonna waive the 50-cent part of that.
That's
That-
correct.
So that's gonna come to us later, and
Right, the agreement is, per the work session, that we approve the project minus the license fee.
right. But we still have to have a resolution. We have to change an ordinance because we now prohibit
Well-
sale of our,
Yeah, but we're not selling it now. We're allowing them to use our letterhead for notifying the citizens of the opportunity, but we're not selling it. The 50-cent license fee was, they're paying us to use that. We're selling a license, if you will, to use that.
okay, but we're giving that 50 cents back to the resident.
They're just not being charged the 50 cents at
Well,
all. Yeah.
However you look at it, but
Yeah.
But they're still using our,
me,
they're
that's
still
selling the-
using our logo.
selling the city logo or city letterhead.
Maybe we should have you tell everybody what this is about.
We have an opportunity presented to us through Service Utility Partners. In essence, it's an insurance plan for water lines, sewer lines, and there's an internal plumbing policy as well. There are three separate policies. It affects the city. It has no effect on the city other than they're asking for us to allow them to come into Independence and promote this program of insurance for the homeowners. If the homeowner chooses to participate, and it's strictly voluntary, external sewer lines would be $7.25 a month, and it covers anything from the sewer main in the street to the house. If they have to dig up the street, there's up to $4,000 of coverage to replace the street. If it tears up a sidewalk, there's up to $1,500 to replace the sidewalk. and there's $4,000 maximum coverage to repair the sewer line. Likewise with water, it's the same coverage from the street, from the water main to the house. If you have Orangeburg sewer lines, or if you have galvanized water lines, if you have lead water lines, service lines from the street. I don't think we have any lead left in the city, but it covers everything from the water main to the house. And they would cover that for you. If you have a claim, you contact them, they send out a plumber, they take care of it. There is no deductible. It's just a service to the citizens above and beyond what we have today. Currently, if you have a sewer service line issue, it's the homeowner's responsibility from their house to the main. This just gives you some protection as a resident. And the council felt that it was important that we offer that if you felt like you needed that protection. The in-home plumbing warranty is a little bit more extensive. That one is $9.50 a month, but it covers any issues of plumbing inside the house. The question was raised, a couple of years back, we had some water service lines freeze. This covers frozen water lines. So if you're in an area of town that has a concern about your water line freezing, this would come in and thaw out the water lines.
When will this be available for people?
When would it be? As soon as you approve it?
And they do,
If you,
and they do.
again, not to put you on the spot, they want the city's blessing to come into town and promote it. They can send out, mail and promotion all day long, but if it's coming from utility service partners, nobody's heard of them. There's not much traction there. They want the city to participate because if we're saying, hey, we support these people we know they're reputable, they're coming to us through the National League of Cities, they're safe to talk to. Anytime somebody's out there promoting something in the community, and it's just junk mail for most people. If it's coming on city letterhead, it's not junk mail.
And they are in other communities, I think we talked about, like Jessup.
They're in Jessup.
They're in Jessup, which would be the closest community. I think they're in 37 communities in Iowa. They are nationwide. It's a national program that's put together.
That's supported by the League of Cities.
The National League of Cities, the Iowa League of Cities also supports it.
I think at the workshop we talked about, do they have a network, or I guess how, maybe City of Jessup would know how they handle it?
Their primary goal, they will start with if we give them a list of service providers in town, they will start by building their network with them first. That's their preference, because any cost for service obviously is covered by the premiums, but they'd like to keep those costs down. So they'll try and work with local plumbers and service providers first. If nobody locally participates, of course, they extend their network out so they can provide the service, but they will take advantage of our local providers first.
Any other?
We assume no liability for their work or their claims by us approving it?
We assume no liability. We are simply informing our citizens that we're aware of this, and here's an opportunity that we're offering to them through service utility partners.
We've done our due diligence to they're reputable and have done what they say they do in other communities.
I haven't found anybody that is disappointed in them. Most places do take advantage of the license fee, and it's an added source of revenue. I understand our council has opted to say, we can do without the revenue stream. Let's reduce the cost to the homeowners for those that want to take advantage of it. But I haven't had any negative reports come back from this program.
Have you seen the letters they send out to people?
I have seen the sample letters.
So what if people jump on it right now, then they're covered right from,
From the day that you contact them, as a matter of fact, that your coverage would start immediately.
so if they wouldn't jump on it right now, they'd wait later, would that still happen, or?
I'm not sure I'm tracking.
Or like, say you get the letter and you decide you don't want to do it, and maybe 6 months down the road, you think, well, maybe this is a good idea.
You can sign up at any point.
And then you'd still be covered right away, there's not going to be a,
From the day that you
Waiting
sign up and commit to the program, you are covered. There is no
No waiting.
waiting period, there's no delay in the coverage, it's the day you sign up.
Probably not a good idea to call the day your lines are frozen off.
Yeah,
Coincidence.
Yeah,
You might not want to tell them they're frozen when you're paid.
yeah.
when you ask for the insurance coverage. Does everybody understand what you're voting for?
We need a motion.
Right, okay, I need a motion and a second to approve the service line warranty program.
I'll make a motion.
Motion from Lenny, second by Vaughn.
May I clarify, we're still talking about the version without the 50-cent license fee, correct?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, roll call.
Brown,
Yes.
Holland,
Yes,
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes,
Hill,
Yes,
Hannah,
Yes,
Grover,
Yes.
I still would like to ask, though, that we look into, we still need to change the ordinance, though, I think, not, because we're still selling, even though we're not, the city itself is not getting the money, we're giving, in fact, that money to resident.
I'll verify.
We're still
that.
selling the product, we're still selling the city.
Not the logo, you're selling a license to use it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But even though we're not taking the cash, the city's not taking the cash, we're giving that cash to the resident.
Passing on the savings.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I'm still thinking we need to have a resolution to change our ordinance, or change the ordinance.
I'll confirm that.
Okay.
Okay, next on the agenda is the 2016 street project.
This is an update from the city's engineer on the 2016 street project. He gave you a status update. We also copied you on a letter that went to one of the residents on Second Street Southeast because of his driveway, so you're aware of some of what's going on with that. He has a very steep driveway. His house happens to be built right up to the city's right-of-way, which means there's not a lot of distance to flatten out the driveway, and wanted to make you aware of that. The decision that we need to ask you for tonight has to do with liquidated damages on 11th Street Northeast. The bid documents stated that the street would be complete by September 15th. It was not. The street was open to traffic 15 days later. 5 of the days that they had in there were days that they were granted as a grace period because of weather or additional work that was asked to be done. So there's a 10-day liquidated damages at $500 a day, or if we, again, hold them to the letter of the contract, it's 40 days at $500 a day or $20,000. You do have a letter in front of you from the superintendent, from Chigfry. In essence, his message is, have mercy on us, please waive the liquidated damages, we do a lot of work in town.
I have a question. Did it, okay, there's a couple things. Did it cause us any pain or any money or anything by it being delayed some?
It did not create any issues because the harvest was slowed down with the weather, and that was the big concern.
You know,
That was the primary purpose for the September 15th deadline.
my recommendation would be just to waive the whole thing, because I'll tell you right now, anybody who's in business, if we charge them 5,000, if we charge them 20, they'll get it back in spades on the next bid. And I think as long as there was no harm, there's no foul, I'd just say, my take would be just waive it, because you always think that you're getting $5,000 or $10,000 out of somebody. In the end, you don't. They get it back plus some, so that's my take on it.
I think too, they stated in here, and I knew about it, I think most of us knew about it, they took on 3 extra projects so that we pulled them off, emergency projects. Am I right on that?
They did take on 3 additional projects. There's only one of those I would classify as an emergency,
But we did call them off.
but we
to do
did.
that. Yeah.
Yes, we did.
So that would take care of some of the days, but I guess I'm like Mike, they're gonna get it back. somehow.
Well, their bid would be higher than somebody else's, so that's not really necessarily true.
Well, we could have, yeah.
And
they're here in town.
but it happens. It just happens.
The reason this is in front of you is the language in the contract says, here's the damages. The council has the right to extend them number of days for them to complete the work. In essence, that comes back to determining, in this case, the liquidated damages.
I think I'd add in to what Mike and Don have said. This whole project was a cluster. And, you know, they didn't know when they could start, when the bidding. I mean, it's probably as much our fault as theirs that they didn't get done.
If I was gonna ding anybody any money, I'd ding the engineering company anyway.
Right.
So
I think we need to.
I think we just,
Yeah, I'd say
yeah, you can
goodbye,
ding
that's what
them,
I'd
but
say.
I think we need a motion to waive the liquidated damages.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion and second to waive the liquidated damages against Chuck Fry. Any other discussion? Do you need a roll call on this or just a majority?
A roll call.
Roll call, okay, go for it.
Holland,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Last item on the agenda is the December 27th City Council meeting, which will be on a Tuesday since the 26th. Monday is a holiday and City Hall is closed.
How about
Decide
motion
whether
to
we're
just
doing it or
cancel
not.
the meeting?
We have done that in the past. It's up to you guys whether we have a second
I
meeting in
second that.
December.
That was a motion, right, Bob?
I'll make a motion. We used to not meet that second one.
If it was around Christmas, we've had at times in the
Yeah.
past that we got canceled, so.
Is there anything that's pertinent that we'd have to have it?
No, we've tried to put as much into this meeting as we could to cover that, so that if you chose to, we'd be okay.
So is there a motion to not
A
have?
motion and a second to waive our second council meeting in December. Everybody understand what they're voting on? You don't need a roll call for this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried, so we will not, this will be our last council meeting
Of the year.
for the year, actually.
There you go. I won't have to look at you guys again the rest of the year.
Well,
Well, there might be some committee meetings. There might be some committee meetings or something, I don't know.
Just call up the website and look at it.
Okay, and we are down to reports. Are there any committee reports, council meetings? Nothing? Not sure who I started with the last time. Did I start with Deb or John?
I think you start with me.
Did you? Okay, then we'll start with John this time. Give him equal
I
time.
have nothing.
Nothing? Mike? Danny?
Well, economic development is in the process of hiring another person. And this person will be, from what I understand, pretty much isolated in the office. I thought, and I haven't even run this by George, but I don't know why that wouldn't be a golden opportunity to consolidate that and the new director for this chamber down there at the same, under the same office, the same person, rather. And I know it's just something to think about.
Yeah.
So,
I don't
start a
know if we
rumor,
have a lot of authority on that, but that's something to at least let them know you're thinking
Yeah,
about it. or you're
maybe should have
suggesting
talked
it.
to George first, huh?
Yeah, or the chamber board, or whatever.
Whatever.
So why, George is hiring another person in his office? Will
Need a
this be
helper, yeah.
Full-time, part-time,
Well, I'm not positive. I think, I'm not gonna say it,
and they're gonna work out of his office, because
Out of
he's
the
in the same
office.
building with the chamber?
from what I
Money
understand.
they have already budgeted for?
Well, we went around and talked to some business people, and they donated.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't talk to you, did we, Mike?
No.
Couldn't find where he's fishing.
No, you couldn't find the right fishing pole.
Anything else? Thank you for that report. Anything else?
No.
Okay, Bob?
Nothing, I'd just like to thank the city crews for getting out and cleaning up the streets and yeah, taken care of, so we can get around, so.
Oh, it's nice. Anything else?
Nope.
Don? Don, do you
Me?
have anything?
Oh, okay. Yeah, a couple of things I want to tell you. I'm hearing a lot of people talk about that sidewalk on 20th Avenue Southwest. We had nothing to do with that. That's done, put in by the developer, so that's no expense to us. That's a plus to us. And also, just mentioned it, hopefully, I don't know where we're standing on Bland Boulevard. I hope that can be done next year, and it would give a path out there to 20th Avenue from, I don't know, that's still on the agenda with the county. It's a county project that we're going along with, possibly. So I wanted to say something about that. And also that road through the school, from high school to the grade schools, is a school road, because people's asking why we put a road through there, and we haven't. So that's just a misunderstanding that I want to get straightened out with people. If they can ask me about it, but I wish they would understand that we're not putting a street in and the sidewalks on 20th Avenue. And I want to go along with Bob on the snow removal. I had a lot of comments how they clean the streets on 150, especially. I mean, they was really happy to see the 150 part cleaned completely off the Sunday morning. So compliment them. That's all I got to say tonight, Al.
Okay, thank you. Austin?
It snowed this weekend. I don't know if anyone else knew that. Other than that, that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. Deb?
Yeah, a couple things. I was asked about the tree dump out there. Can anybody go out there and get the mulch?
Yes.
They don't even have to live in Independence?
No.
They can take as much as they want?
We have not had an issue with getting rid of all of it to this point.
Okay,
We can't sell it. I mean, if we decide to sell it, the state has different regulations, and we've talked about that, but we don't want to get into trying to meet those regulations. So, yeah, we've opened it up,
that's what I
and
thought.
we haven't gotten rid of all of it yet.
We've talked about it too. It kind of comes up every few months.
That's how I
Somebody
understood
will
it, but
ask
somebody
us,
just asked about it again, and
and it's, we've all been convinced, I mean, we all believe that, number one, you can't sell it because of, liability. And if we didn't grind it up and get rid of it, we'd have a bigger mess.
I think people thought it was taking money away from us, and I said I didn't think we
In
had
fact, I think we,
an outlet to sell it or whatever.
I think
so.
we didn't, by the time we charge, don't we charge $1 or $1.50 a month?
We have $1.50
Something.
On our light bill.
environmental fee, right, and that's what that's supposed to.
I mean, it's kind of a,
So can anybody bring things out there too? Dump stuff?
We
Trees?
only
Or is that supposed to
allow
be people in town?
residents to dump there because.
That's the part that,
If you pay the $1.50 on your light bill, you
Right.
can dump.
Yes.
If you don't, you can't. Yeah.
And the reason for that is, a lot of that, the larger material has to be chipped or shredded, and we pay for that. We do all the work for creating the mulch, so we do limit who can dump there.
Okay. And the other thing was this email from you, Al, about the water service line repair to Mr. Mass.
Yes.
So the last conversation I had with you about that, Dick was gonna get,
Well, we had followed city code and informed Mr. Mast of the city code. We did talk to the city attorney, and the city attorney did not feel like there was enough to warrant that. And so I sent out that following email based on my conversation with the city attorney. Because there was some information that was not shared by Mr. Weber or Mr. Mast prior to my sending the letter to Mr. Mast. And when we got that information and reviewed the city code with the
what
city.
information is that? That's not,
There was work that was left undone on the project, and quite honestly, the service provider and Mr. Mast disagreed on who should finish the project, as near as I can tell. And the project wasn't finished.
but nobody got a hold of Dick Weber to tell him about this?
I have not contacted Mr. Weber because I had talked to Mr. Mast, and my letter was to Mr. Mast.
But the last time I talked to you directly about this, you were gonna assess Mr. Mass's taxes and
And I did send a letter to Mr. Mast
Dick would
saying,
get his money. So being you told me that, I've kept in contact with Dick.
okay,
there's the word mistrust. Council people mistrust people. So now we got the community mistrusting us because we tell them one thing and now we're going back and saying, well, nope, sorry, we can't help you out. See where I'm coming from?
I tell you what, when I wasn't privy to the first letters, you know, that you were talking about, but just looking at that whole thing on the communication that John sent and everything, it looked to me like something that the city absolutely wasn't involved with and shouldn't get drug into.
Right. And that's
Without
where the
even knowing
attorneys-
whatever you guys had. I think Dick and John, you know, I think it's something that those guys have to sort out, but I don't see the city having any responsibility in it
The-
at all.
The initial letter was sent out based on City Code 90.13 that says that if there's work done to alleviate a nuisance, I think is the way it's referred to. In this case, we had a water leak that the neighbor thought was theirs, and they called a plumber to fix it. They got halfway through the project and realized it was not their issue, but it was, in fact, a service line to Mr. Mast. And the project was finished, you know, at that point. It had to be done. It wasn't something you could leave. Or I suppose the other option would have been to shut off Mr. Mast's water and walk away and wait for him to call. But again, the project was finished, the leak was repaired, and then there was a dispute as to who should pay the bill. The initial individual paid half of the bill because they thought they owed it, even though, you know, they thought the leak was theirs and it wasn't. So half of it was paid, the other half was not. The problem is, as I understood it, following the email that was forwarded to me, was there was a pretty good-sized hole left in the yard that nobody bothered to fill in. And there was some discussion between the parties as to who should pay for it or how that should be resolved, and they couldn't come to terms. I didn't have that information until after I had sent the letter following city code saying if there's a nuisance and we have to fix it, you know, we have the right to assess that property. So, yes, it would have helped to have all the information ahead of time. Even in my conversation with Mr. Mast, I didn't get that information. I didn't get that until I got the email that he had sent some correspondence that he had sent to Dick. So, should we be in it? Absolutely not. It is a civil issue, and I did talk to Carter about that, and following Carter's advice, we did send out the letter, or the email that you received, Deb. And I copied the council on that so you understood where that was at.
But I just think it's a bad deal that you got this in here, and I knew I talked with you about it, and I read this, and there's 3 other council members that know about it. Didn't know that. I think that's mistrust, and I think it's mistrust what we did to Dick Weber by me going back and telling him what you told me, and now that's not gonna happen.
Well, I informed you with what I knew at the time that you and I talked. And you know, everything I've shared with you, and I followed through on what I shared with you. I mean, that hasn't changed. The 3 council people that were informed, that wasn't from us, that was from Mr. Mast. That had nothing to do with staff. You know, that
The
wasn't
guy
on
got
our.
the work done, and Dick did it, and like you said, they would have had to do it. Somebody would have had to do it.
That's correct.
It would have been a city problem.
But at this point, there's, according to Mr. Mast, now it's into who's pointing fingers at who. The project got kind of done, but it was never finished. And we were never shared that information up front either. So, I mean, again, you're down to the last couple $100. I think that those folks have to figure out where they're at. I apologize for sending out the letter in the first place because, again, I didn't have all of the information at the time, and even at the time when I visited with Mr. Mast, he didn't share all of the information with me.
So who went back and took care of filling the hole up? The city?
No, I believe from Mr. Mast's email, he did it. He did it himself from the email that he sent.
I don't know how that's the truth, but I see what, like I said, it was kind of a mistrust thing that I tell the guy, yeah, you're gonna get your money back.
Well, and I followed through on what we had discussed. But again, it would help if we had all of the information up front.
And
That's
we're,
all I got.
and we're going by the advice of our city attorney as far as where the city sits for it, so. Mark, do you have anything for tonight? Come forward if
I
you
have
do,
something.
please.
I've talked all night.
Just, well, number 7, getting the bowl for the pump, should be back online maybe this week. It's old enough, I think they had to remanufacture a new bowl for it, so they still had plans. And talking about frozen water lines, I wanted to warn the citizens that it's getting that time of year, so if it gets down to 38 degrees, your water, call the light plant, let them know, let the water continue to run, and we will exempt the sewer and water, so make sure that they know that, because we don't want any frozen water
Just
lines.
people that have had problems with it.
Yeah, anybody that's frozen in the past, you're gonna need to let it run, pencil-sized, stream. I think it's a gallon every 4 minutes is what you want running through there, so. And then we'll suspend the sewer and water charges for that, so
How will you
everybody needs to keep
determine
that in
what-
mind.
How do you determine what's extra? Or the whole
You'll know.
water bill?
There's
for
a
that month?
normal, there's a normal.
Oh, is it?
You just suspend
It's
what's
just
over
an
the,
average, right,
over the
well,
average.
anything over the average,
The complete overage on
Yes.
water and sewer?
yes,
But not, I think you said sewer,
yeah.
but you said water.
Oh, just the sewer?
No, water and sewer both.
Water and
Oh,
sewer both?
okay, all right.
Okay, that's what I thought.
You almost have, you gotta do that.
Does that affect us? It's an REC.
Well, it's just, those people that are frozen fast, we're a ways away, the frost is just starting down, so this is, but
But you do want them to call ahead of
Right.
time and let them
Call
know.
my
let
REC
them know.
if they
Call the light plant, let Sue or whoever answers know that that's what you're doing, if your water gets to 38 degrees. So,
You talking about the water or the temperature?
the water temperature, water gets
It's
to
already
38 degrees.
38 degrees.
No,
The temperature.
the temperature, your water isn't 38 degrees yet.
No, but the temperature outside, as you go outside and test it, right?
Okay. So that's about all I had.
You're saying the water temperature is 38 degrees? That's-
No, if it gets down to 38 degrees.
Oh,
Well water tends to run about 51 to 54 degrees, so. But that's a good indication.
It takes pretty deep frost.
Right.
For it to, I mean,
be like 2
we
years.
decided it was 2-3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, most people's was still, above 40.
Right.
It was
There's just certain parts of town
certain
where
parts
it's
of
very,
town where
very
it gets there,
shallow.
but it takes pretty deep frost.
Yeah, it's gonna take some 20 below nights for a long time, like 2 or 3 years ago, whenever that was.
Bite your tongue.
Okay. Let's try not to have the weather. Dustin? That stuff will work on its own while you're away?
I hope so.
Okay.
Blows up, it's not my fault.
Radio
when you're
work.
saying
eh?
Don't touch anything.
It happens. So, over the weekend, Friday night, we had Jingle on Main. Didn't have any accidents from shutting down First Street or Second Avenue Northeast. It appears some things had changed on where she was setting stuff up, but I think we had a pretty decent turnout of it. A lot of the businesses had things open. I know I walked around and pretty much went into every single store to see what was going on and see how much of a gathering we had inside and so forth. I think it was a good trial on this, and I think now she's gonna take the information back, go through it all, and see what she wants to do maybe next year for when this comes up again. But I said, we had a pretty decent crowd out. I know my family was out, and they rode on the horse-drawn carriages around, and they really had a good time with it, so. That was the first one. Through our hiring processes, on Friday, we also went through and had interviews. So we're down to, we had 5 interviews, and we're gonna be starting doing backgrounds here this next week for the open position that we're gonna have with Sergeant Niedert leaving. It has been snowing out. Make sure you drive safely. There's been quite a few accidents out, a couple here in town. Most of the major ones are out in the county, but still. I did get a complaint today about the snow removal process, which we'll be talking to with the committee, seeing if we're gonna keep it the same or if we're gonna possibly have it about changing when we have a snow emergency, if it can be park on the one side of the street even days, or park on the other side of the street the odd days and so forth. First time I've ever been on this end of it, so we'll talk to the committee here when that comes up. I know with the committee, since we're bringing things back together, couple months ago, I spoke with the committee about OWI restitution process that we can, as the city police department, we can go through a process of filling out paperwork for every OWI I have, and we can get restitution back up to $500 for the OWI for our department. Well, talking with Sean Harden, we finally got that completed. Took us a couple months. He was busy with some cases, but it's now completed. So whenever we conduct an OWI, we fill out a form that goes with it that will go up to Sean, and Sean will ask for money back from the guy that we arrested to help pay for the cost of our officers being out there for such a period of time, any overtime that accrued, up to $500 for our agency. Now, that doesn't stop the sheriff's department from doing the same, the police, or the state patrol do the same, the fire department can even be attached to that as well. So if we get an OWI that causes an accident where the fire department is brought out, I gave one of our forms to Cook, and he's going to change it to map what the fire department would use based on how much they are, and that can be entered in as well. So hopefully we can, with this process, recoup some of the money and time money that we spend out on dealing with OWIs. The form that I used, I borrowed from DNR Officer Drish, and on there, which I really liked and which I kept on there, also is a code that is boating while intoxicated. So if we happen to have a boat that somebody is boating while intoxicated that the DNR deals with, that we get involved with, we can also submit as well for that arrest the DNR has to deal with. So as long as any hours that we put in of a hourly rate, and then miles if we have to transport somebody, it can add up pretty fast with as much time and miles, especially if we have to take them to, somebody wants an independent drug test, we have to take them over to Allen Hospital in Waterloo now. So if we have to go over there, the miles and all that stuff can be added up, so it takes us time and money and to transport somebody. So OWIs are getting more and more expensive for us. So this way it'll help bring us some of that money back into ours so we don't spend so much, so. I think that's all I have.
Okay.
We can't do that out here?
Do what?
Drug test.
They won't do it anymore. If it is, we have the ability to, we can ask for a breath test, we can ask for a urine test, we can ask for a blood test. Breath test will be for the alcohol, a urine and a blood test will be for any other drugs, any illegal drugs or prescription drugs. If we're doing it for our criminal process, they will do it out here at the hospital. But in an OWI, we also have to offer the person the option of having their own test. Let's say they don't like ours, so they want to have their own done. Hospital out here won't do it. Owine won't do it. Manchester won't do it. I worked with every single hospital around here. I've talked to Covenant. I've talked to Allen. Those are the only two in this area that will even do that anymore. And Allen is actually the best process because we can take them there. They don't have to go through seeing the doctor. They go up to the lab, have it drawn. They have to pay for it themselves. We don't pay for it, but we have to be the transport. So we have to take them there and then bring them back. So that entire time we are there in our custody. So.
Wasn't Allen too, they didn't need money up front?
Correct.
Covenant wanted the money?
At Covenant, we had to bring our own kit. We had to give them the kit. I think it was like $50 up front at Covenant. Then they gave the kit back to the person, which then came to us because we took them to jail. So that was in our possession, which has just made a big mess of it. Where Allen, we take them there. They have their own lab. They draw their own blood. It stays there. We don't take it. We don't handle it. The only thing we do is we transport back. So it makes it easier for us. But unfortunately, it does take us driving all the way over to Waterloo. So Sheriff's Department's in the same boat that we are, unfortunately. So I tried to work out something else with some other people, but just people don't want to cover that because they're afraid of not getting paid for doing the job that we're asking of them, so.
And if we don't do this, there's a real chance the OWI can get tossed?
It will get dismissed. So we have to offer it to them, and if they say they want it, we have to be the taxi service for them. Otherwise, it can be thrown out. So.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
All right. Do you have anything tonight?
No, I'd say if we're not having the next meeting, happy holiday, happy New Year, all that stuff.
Okay. Thank you. Gina?
is mostly focusing on the budget. The budget form from the Department of Management finally got released on Friday, and we did get our letter from the state auditors for the information that they want us to get ready and put together for when they come the second week of January.
Okay. Al?
I wanted to address Bland Boulevard briefly. I believe that Brian Kylaber is supposed to hear in December about that being a farm-to-market road. I know he's been working on that to get his funding squared away, but we're planning on participating on our share this spring. Still hopeful that that's moving ahead, but it is a county project. There was a question about that sidewalk on 20th Avenue South. I'm glad you brought that up. No, the city does not remove snow on that. That's not a city sidewalk at this point. So there was some discussion about whether or not we did or should be, and at this point, no, we're not. I did send out earlier today a spreadsheet showing the LED streetlights and the savings that we've experienced so far. It's substantial. I think in 2016, being a partial year, we're just over $30,000 of savings on our bill. Just as a reminder, our agreement with the light plant is we continue to make our average payments for the lights, and any of the savings goes towards repayment of those fixtures that they put in at the labor for installing them. But it's just over 7 years based on our current rates. If the rates go up, our savings will happen a little quicker, and that means the payback will be shorter than that. But that spreadsheet will be coming out once a year to update you. If they change rates, that'll change some of that projection, and they'll update us at that time. But it's a pretty significant savings, 214,000 kilowatt hours that we're saving. So very good plan. And that's, other than the fact that we do have our holiday potluck on the 21st that I invite you to. Come and have lunch with the employees from 11:30 to 1.
I also would like to thank everyone that was involved with the Jingle on Main on Friday night. They did a good job. Everybody worked together, the businesses, the sponsors. I've heard nothing but good things from people who did attend it. I went to it also. My feet and hands were frozen by the time I got home, but it still was fun. It was good to see. The kids really seemed to enjoy it. So I think it was a very positive experience for everybody. I'm asking for the citizens. I'm going to have a position that I need to fill for the Board of Adjustments by the first of the year. So if there's any citizens out there that are interested in wanting to sit on that board, I wish they would give me, or I ask that they give me an email, send me an email or a letter. Email just at mayor@indytel.com, or send me a letter here to City Hall if they have an interest on that. And let me know why they're interested and what their available time is, things to that degree.
What
But
does the Board of Adjustment do? Maybe that for people to know.
That would be the board that makes determinations on appeals for zoning code or variances. I mean, that'd be the easiest explanation. Their decisions are binding. Their decisions are not a recommendation to the council. They are a board that makes legally binding decisions, so it's a pretty significant position.
it is a 5-year term. But I have other councils or different committees that come open also, so if anybody's interested in getting involved and being on a commission or a board or anything to that degree, I'd like to have them send me that notice to that information. I'll hold on to them as things come up. As far as the council is concerned, we will be redoing the committees after the first of the year, so I'm asking each of you to send me an email with your first, second, and third choice of what committees you would like to sit on. And we'll be addressing that at the first meeting council meeting that we have in January, and do new placements on that also. One of the things for the citizens, that one of our items that we approved for our goal setting was looking at our ordinances. So we need to be going through all those ordinances, and I'd like to have some citizens sitting in on that. So that's one of the big ones that they could get involved in. And we may have different committees depending on what section of our ordinances we go through. So anybody that's interested in doing that, they need to send me, not to my personal email, but to the mayor@indytel.com email. And send it just to me, not as copies to everybody else, so that I have that as a record of people's interests in getting involved and what they would like to do. So, other than that, I don't think I have anything else
Well,
to address.
I have a holiday joke.
You have a holiday joke
Holiday
before
joke.
we can adjourn, okay?
Even Santa has problems with people getting along. You know, he had his reindeer mutiny on him. They came up to him and they were upset. They wanted to know how come Dancer and Prancer got to take so many coffee breaks. And to show you shouldn't show favoritism, Santa made a mistake. He said they were his Starbucks.
Okay. I heard a joke at Silver Sneakers, but it's not one, it's too colorful for here.
I'll make the motion to adjourn now.
Yeah. And before we get adjourned, I do want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, since we won't officially be meeting until after the first of the year. And I'm assuming we'll do that on the Wednesday that we do,
Wednesday
since
the
Monday is a holiday that council, or City Hall's closed. So we'll meet again on Wednesday, the 4th, for our next official council member, or workshop and budget meeting. So
I'll work on another joke.
try to improve on them.
Don't, Bob.
And then I just need a motion to adjourn.
I already made it.
Austin made the motion, a second by Vaughn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. See you next year.